Hi, good afternoon. Again, as a quick introduction, my name is Manu Sharma, and in this video series, I'm actually going to be recording my lessons for my HCL 1204 course, which is a leadership development course for first year students in Lambton College who's studying here in Ottawa, Canada. So this course is a part of the tourism and hospitality program, and I'm principally recording these videos to make sure that any students who, because of the recent complications with international student admissions and their visas, who couldn't make it here on time, that they do not lag too far behind. So this is to make sure that they know where exactly the class is. So we are going to be soon into week 4. So today I'm going to take the time to record the lesson from week 1. As I quickly mentioned, my name is Manu Sharma. I'm based here in Ottawa. I work for a charity here locally as a senior executive. But in this video, I'm principally here as a professor at Lambton College, where, as I mentioned, I'm teaching a leadership development course to first year students in the tourism and hospitality program. It would be great if you could subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications, because my plan is to put all 15 weeks of these lessons online. So who would benefit from it? इससे किसको फायदा होगा? Duality of वो लोग जो ऑलरेडी लीडरशिप डेवलपमेंट को देख रहे हैं, टूरिज्म एंड हॉस्पिटैलिटी में है, या इन जनरल आल्सो जिनका इंटरेस्ट लीडरशिप डेवलपमेंट में है. प्लस अगर आप कनाडा में इंटरनेशनल एजुकेशन देख रहे हो, so if you're considering international education in Canada, this would not be a bad course for you to follow along, because this gives you an idea of कि यहाँ पे कैसे पढ़ाते हैं, क्या पढ़ाते हैं. So ये कोर्स बहुत important कोर्स है. उसके बारे में मैं आपको कोर्स के टाइम में बताऊंगा, but let's get started. So agenda for this particular session, we'll talk about leadership development, the role of values, talk about the big 5 personality traits. एक असाइनमेंट है लीडरशिप रिफ्लेक्शन जर्नल के ऊपर, उसको इंट्रोड्यूस करूंगा मैं. एंड द रीजन आई एम इंट्रोड्यूसिंग दैट, इवन दो दिस इज अ यूट्यूब कोर्स, इसकी आइडिया हो जाए आप लोगों को कि एक्सरसाइजेज एंड असाइनमेंट्स कैसी होती हैं. वैसे भी एक रिफ्लेक्शन जर्नल maintain karna is a very good idea. So I just want to make sure that that you're able to get a sense of, because this is something that even outside of this course, in my day-to-day coaching and mentorship, I bring forward to people. So leadership models, उनको quickly देखेंगे. कुछ एक select leadership models जिनकी relevance है, self leadership का concept देखेंगे. And then we'll talk about chapter 1, which is basically which will introduce you to interpersonal skill development through a framework. So you already know about me. Usually क्या होता है जब भी हम लोग इकट्ठे होते हैं क्लास में, I ask everybody to tell me their name, a little bit about their background, place of birth. Why? जब भी आप किसी को मिलते हैं और आप उनके साथ में काम करते हैं, उनका नाम रिमेंबर करने के लिए it's always good to have a little something to remind you. And place of birth, in my own experience, always stays with me. अगर कोई बोलता है, if somebody will tell me I was born in Delhi, as an example of somebody coming from India. So even if I will, even if it will be a little bit of a struggle for me to remember their name, I will remember unki place of birth kya hai. Unique story, measure of success, what do they think they want to gain from the course. And if they can, I like to invite them to put out an adjective or a word that they think can describe them. So key questions, हम leadership क्यों पढ़ रहे हैं, why leadership development, who is a strong leader. And one of the key things that I always like to lead with is, I ask everybody who's in the course with me if they think of themselves as a leader. Do they at this moment think they are a leader? And people are shy. People do not want to engage in the very first class. So I hear people give me different answers, but usually people don't put up their hand. So उस time पे the whole idea is for people to understand कि आपको लीडर बनने के लिए या लीडरशिप में आपका इंटरेस्ट वेस्टेड होने के लिए आपको कुछ बहुत स्पेशल करने की जरूरत नहीं है. Right where you are, even if it's just your family, there's ample opportunity for you to be a leader. There's ample opportunity for you to develop your leadership skills. So there's ample opportunity for you to invest in leadership development. And उसका reason क्या है? Leadership एक mindset भी है, उसके बारे में हम बात करेंगे, पर उसमें एक स्किल सेट का कंपोनेंट भी है, एक टूल सेट का कंपोनेंट भी है. बट इन जनरल दिस इज it's not a skill, it's a way of thinking, it's a way of how you go about your life, it's a way of how you approach people, it's a way of how you approach tasks, how you approach problems. आपकी solution orientation कैसी है? So it's a good something for people to invest in, because it really allows you to discover yourself. और आप उसके बाद में लाइफ में कहीं पे भी जाएंगे, प्रोफेशनली, पर्सनली, ये स्किल्स आपके बहुत काम आएंगे, टूल्स आपके काम आएंगे. अगर आपने लीडरशिप डेवलपमेंट में कॉन्शियसली इन्वेस्ट किया है तो आप अपनी सक्सेस को प्लान कर सकते हैं. सो उसके बारे में हम और डिटेल में बात करेंगे, बट इट्स जस्ट टू मेक ए केस फॉर कि भाई एक कोर्स है जो टूरिज्म एंड हॉस्पिटैलिटी में है, उसमें लीडरशिप डेवलपमेंट क्यों है? ना सिर्फ लीडरशिप डेवलपमेंट का कोर्स है, नॉट ओनली इज इट अ कोर्स इन टूरिज्म एंड हॉस्पिटैलिटी डेवलपमेंट, इट्स आल्सो इन द फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर, इट्स वन ऑफ द फर्स्ट कोर्सेज. और उसका रीजन ये है कि दिस इज गोइंग टू सेट द स्टेज फॉर योर सक्सेस इन द होल प्रोग्राम. आप अगर ये स्किल्स अपफ्रंट बना लोगे तो ये स्किल बनाने से आपको थ्रू आउट द कोर्स फायदा होगा. नॉट ओनली इस कोर्स में, आई मीन थ्रू आउट द सेमेस्टर्स फायदा होगा, अगले सेमेस्टर्स में भी फायदा होगा. सो दिस इज द राइट टाइम फॉर यू टू स्टार्ट थिंकिंग अबाउट इट. सो कॉन्टिन्यूम क्या है? माइंड सेट, हार्ट सेट, स्किल सेट, टूल सेट, डेटा सेट. इसको आप उल्टा भी कर सकते हैं. मैंने यहाँ पे माइंड सेट के बाद में हार्ट सेट किया. सो बेसिकली पहले तो ये है ना कि आपकी अवेयरनेस होनी चाहिए, आपकी रिफ्लेक्शन होनी चाहिए, आपकी एस्पिरेशन तो होनी चाहिए ना. उसको आप कैसे करेंगे? आपको चाहिए क्या है, आप कहाँ जाना चाहते हो, तो वो सारा कुछ माइंडसेट में आ जाता है. हार्ट सेट इज अबाउट पर्पस, कि आप कुछ बनना चाहते हैं, क्यों बनना चाहते हैं, आप why would you want to be there, like, so in mindset you're really looking at the aspiration, and heart set you're looking at the purpose. Skill set obviously refers to the competencies, tool set refers to resources, and data set refers to information. How are you going to determine if you're successful? So you start all the way from what your aspirations are to really making sure your aspirations are congruent with your values. They're congruent with your beliefs, with your purpose. Then you start looking into competencies. What do you need to develop? आपकी सोच क्या, your thinking, आपके actions, you're doing, वो skill set आ गया. Tool set, very specific tools, frameworks, models, theories. और लीडरशिप की जो डोमेन है, लीडरशिप की जो थ्योरी है, उसमें बहुत कुछ है. अगर आपका इसमें एक बारी इंटरेस्ट आ गया तो फिर स्काई इज द लिमिट. यू कैन कंटिन्यू टू डेवलप. लाइक एज एन एग्जांपल, पर्सनली मुझे मोस्ट प्रोबेबली 1000 से ज्यादा टूल्स के बारे में पता होगा. अब उनको कहाँ यूज करना, कैसे यूज करना है, किस सिनेरियो में यूज करना है, टुवर्ड्स व्हाट एंड, और लिमिटेशंस क्या, कंस्ट्रेंट्स क्या, वो सारा कुछ टूल सेट में आता है. फिर डेटा सेट, लाइक आई सेड, इज ऑल अबाउट यू फिगरिंग आउट कि जो आप करना चाहते थे वो कर भी पा रहे हो कि नहीं. सो इंटेंट एंड आउटकम्स. सो आई यूजुअली लाइक टू टॉक अबाउट दिस राइट अप फ्रंट कि जो मेरा टीचिंग स्टाइल है, व्हाइल आई एम टीचिंग इन अ क्लास, इट्स रियली नॉट टीचिंग, बिकॉज टीचिंग इज अ वन टू मैनी. आप खड़े और आप अपनी नॉलेज शेयर कर रहे हो. And then in my opinion, and I say this very humbly because I have lots of respect for teachers who actually enjoy the teaching style, but in my opinion it's like a download. आपने एक parachute कर दी अपनी information, and then you're leaving it for people what they want to gain out of it, and that's not actually how it works for me. Mentoring is similar, but it's one-on-one, but it's still about somebody who is more mature, more knowledgeable, who's more wise, coming and telling you what to do. And in mentoring, the focus is on the person who's speaking, because they are acknowledged for for their experience, for their wisdom. And the idea is, in sharing that knowledge and wisdom, they would have done enough for you to get from them what you want to get, to understand what you need to do. कोचिंग डिफरेंट है. कोचिंग में जो फोकस है वो सुनने पे ज्यादा है. कोचिंग is not about you giving a solution. It's also not about you telling people what you've done in your life, but it's a different mindset. And this is where mindset comes into place. उसमें ज्यादा एम्फोसिस है आप अपने जो आपके सामने बैठा उसको समझें, उसको सुनें. So that's my teaching style. I like to teach on the merit of what it is that people who are around me like to know, like to understand, and it has an element of going back and forth. And मेरे लिए जो कोचिंग की एक बहुत important criteria वो ये है कि you are then leaving the person who is your client or who is under your stewardship with enough for them to manage their learning journey from that point on their own. So कोचिंग में एक इंडिपेंडेंस का बहुत बड़ा एलिमेंट है जिसको मैं बहुत अप्रिशिएट करता हूँ. I'm a product of a whole lot of people who taught me, who mentored me, and who coached me. And at some point of time मैं अपने चैनल पे अपने जो मेरे सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट बिजनेस और लीडरशिप के कोच हैं, उनका नाम माइकल लाशेपेल है, उनको लेके आऊँगा. Because he really taught me not just the theory, not just the models, but he also taught me on how to bring it into my own practice. कि उनको लेके मैंने अपने आप काम कैसे करना. So intentionality of language, this is something everybody will hear about all throughout. One of the key reasons for having a leadership coach, other than what I've already talked about, is this helps you develop the right kind of language, जो कि professional, intentional, जिसकी tonal, quality है. How are you going to represent yourself? Whether you're working for yourself, you're working for the government, you're working for a company, you're in the non-profit sector, for-profit sector, as you grow in life, you will be in a sweet boardroom. Then how do you do that? So self-awareness about others and how your work impacts them. Psychological contract, which is the unsaid, undocumented contract between you and others. In my class, I asked my class for 3 things: curiosity, honesty, and respect. Respect मेरी screen के नीचे है. And in return, I ask everybody to tell me one thing. So अभी जो मेरी most recent class है उसमें 16 students हैं. 16 of them told me one thing that they want from me. In return, I asked them for only 3 things. So जब honesty, curiosity और respect पे सब agree कर जाएंगे मेरे साथ में, तो plagiarism और academic integrity का कोई इतना issue नहीं. So, I like to employ, again, I'm a coach first. I like to employ this whole idea of a benefit of doubt, because I fundamentally believe everybody is coming from a good place. So, course objective, we have covered that a little bit. Personal growth, self-discovery, self-development, आपकी leadership abilities को heighten करने के लिए, आपके interpersonal skills को enhance करने के लिए, और professional behaviors, the intentionality of the language that I talked about. So उन सब के ऊपर focus है. So this is the total course, chapter 1 से chapter 14 तक. Chapter 1 will be a framework for interpersonal skill development, and then we'll go through each chapter, one at a time. In some sessions there will be 2 chapters, but the idea is that we'll go the learning in the course will be from chapter 1, which introduces you to a quick framework for interpersonal skill development, to the chapter 14th, which is about ethical behavior and how do you enhance them. So उस journey में I'll commit to making videos for all the chapters. Even though जो वो मेरे students हैं वो आ जाएंगे, but then I'll at least like to maintain continuity. So ये weekly course plan है. For those of you who are not in Canada, if you're watching it, this is just to give you a sense of कि course structure कैसा होता है Canada में. As you can look at it, हर रोज exercise भी है, हर रोज कुछ homework भी है. Homework बहुत थोड़ा होता है, and homework is typically as a case study. Analysis पे ज़्यादा focus है, याद करने पे कम focus है. और class में, as the last slide said, everybody is encouraged to at least ask one question. जितनी class में engagement होगी उतना लोग सीखेंगे, and at some point of time I'll also do some online hours if I have a sense of कि people are watching it. 3 exams for the students who are not here. First one is individual. Second one, which is on July 15th, will be individual. उसमें एक individual component है, एक team का component है, और एक peer review भी होगा. Same thing for test 3, which is August 12th. And then there's a total of 5 assignments, एक individual assignment, जो actually is due sometime soon on June 10th. And then there's 4 group assignment. Next class, which is on May 27th, which is the Monday after, उसमें first assignment due है. And that is a group assignment, meaning कि जो class में groups बनाए हैं 3 के, 3 in each group, they will work together on a case analysis and they will submit the work together as one group. So थोड़ा सा difference है from other jurisdictions wherein rote learning, मतलब जिसको हिंदी में रट्टा कहते हैं, उस पर कम emphasis है. The greater emphasis is on that interpersonal element and actually understanding कि आपको group में काम करना है. So anyway, that's what it was. Book. This is the book. Everybody is encouraged to get the book. Actually, I insist on everybody getting the book because without the book, it's very difficult to follow along. अगर class में कोई आएगा and just slides से जाएगा, तो then exams are a challenge. But otherwise, also, I highly encourage everybody to come into the class having read the chapter, because उसमें क्या होता है कि अगर आप chapter पहले पढ़ के आते हो, तो जब आप class में आते हो, तो you're able to follow along with the prof. So groups हमने बना दिए हैं. Groups का सबका charter होता है, groups की responsibility सबकी है, groups में equal है, peer review होगा, assignments और exams इकट्ठे होंगे. And जब groups बनाए थे, तो I didn't give them much of a choice. हमने एक exercise की जो मैं आज आपको introduce करवाऊंगा, big 5 personality traits. उसके accordingly जो traits आए, we try to mix and match and make sure कि हर एक group में वो traits distributed है. And the reason that I asked a question, I said, well, why do you think I've not given you a choice in who you can group with? And I heard answers all over, but then one individual did give it the right answer. It's not because I'm the prof and you're the students and I get to do what I want to do. It's also not because you don't have any say in it. It's because we want to have the groups in the class mirror the reality in the world. And when you are out in the world, whether you're in a leadership role or you're working under a leader, you very rarely get the chance to form your own group. Like आपकी उसमें choice बहुत कम होती है कि मैं किस टीम के साथ में काम करूंगा. एक टाइम होगा अपनी life में, in a professional sense, you will be at a point where when you get into a leadership role, you may have the opportunity to bring your own team with you because आप इतने senior हो कि that can be a condition. But in general, you do not get a chance to have a say. You have to find a way to work with people that you're working with, and we want that to be reflected in the class. So हर एक group में एक chairperson होना जरूरी है. अगर 4 लोग हैं तो 4 chairperson, recorder, spokesperson, and timekeeper. They can be 4 jobs, but otherwise, if there's 3 people, then one of them has to be chairperson. And the chairperson typically is the one who's taking the lead and taking an ownership in terms of engagement, making sure that the group's work is properly represented. Now, यहाँ पे there's an opportunity to introduce the concept of extroverts and introverts. Now, this is something that's always challenging. When people start out in the class, they're shy. And when you ask them why they're not speaking up, they would always say, oh, because we are introverts. And I have had to explain this to this particular cohort also. देखें, extroverts, people tend to think introversion in a very negative way. It is all about being quiet, being shy, but that's not what it is. Introverts or extroverts, the main difference is not in shyness. It's in how somebody gets their energy. Introverts usually do not need other people to get their energy, so they like to work in their own, but that doesn't mean they don't like people. That also doesn't mean that they don't like speaking up. It just means that they do not have to depend upon people. They do not have to be around people. Introverts malls mein jaake ghumenge nahi just because they have time. Introverts will be with a book in their own personal space. Extroverts are the exact opposite. If they're not around people, they have low energy. They need to be around people to get their energy. So one of the key things that I try to always explain at this point of time is the difference between being an introvert and being shy. Because even extroverts can be shy. Introverts can be shy. Shy is something that you need to address. Introversion does not mean something that you have to address. उसमें कुछ गलत नहीं है. अगर आप introverted हो, आप उसको accept करो, लोगों को समझाओ, and continue with it. But if you are shy, then then that's something that you need to change, because shyness typically comes from a fear and anxiety, and that's not a good place to be. उसको address करने की जरूरत है, उसके interventions हैं. There are very specific things that you can do, including in a class with somebody like I, who, by the way, is an extreme introvert. But again, in the delivery of my job, in my profession, nobody would be able to understand that. So that's one thing that really needs to be understood. So connecting values to leadership, values बहुत important होती हैं. हम क्लास में एक exercise करते हैं जहाँ पे I give a printout with almost 100 values on a piece of paper, and I ask people to go from 100 to 15. Then I give them the time to go from 15 to 10, then from 10 to 5, and 5 to 3. And the idea is to really bring in that consciousness, that intentionality on what's important for them, because उसके बाद में हर element of their personal and professional life, they have to understand that those values kick in. अगर आपको उन values का पता ही नहीं है, और ये exercise इसलिए important होती है इस time पे क्योंकि लोग नहीं टाइम लगाते सोचने में कि भाई हमारी वैल्यूज कौन सा. आई थिंक एवरीबडी नोज इंट्यूटिवली, सबकॉन्शियसली, बट दे आर नॉट आउट देयर. सो डिसीजन मेकिंग में, टीम डायनामिक्स में, ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल कल्चर में, हाउ यू कैरी योरसेल्फ. सो वन थिंग आई सेड आउट लाउड टू द होल टीम वाज कि बगैर वैल्यूज की अंडरस्टैंडिंग के आपके पर्सनल रिलेशनशिप्स में भी प्रॉब्लम आएगी. क्यों आएगी? क्योंकि आप किसी के साथ में टाइम कैसे गुजारोगे अगर उसकी वैल्यूज आपके साथ में नहीं मैच करती. सो द पॉइंट इज नॉट कि आपकी हर एक वैल्यू उनकी वैल्यू जैसी होनी चाहिए. कि अगर आपने 3 पिक किया, रिस्पेक्ट, एम्पैथी एंड ऑनेस्टी, तो उनके पास में भी रिस्पेक्ट. बट द पॉइंट इज दैट व्हाटएवर देयर वैल्यूज इज, whatever their values are, or they should be able to acknowledge, understand, appreciate, and work with your values. मतलब आपकी वैल्यू एम्पैथी है और उनकी वैल्यू low integrity, being very aggressive for the sake of being aggressive, तो फिर आप इकट्ठे नहीं चल सकते. So importance of values in tourism and hospitality, in life in general तो बहुत important वैसे ही है. आपकी अपनी वैल्यूज इंपॉर्टेंट है, आपके आसपास वालों की वैल्यूज इंपॉर्टेंट है, बट इन टूरिज्म एंड हॉस्पिटैलिटी इट बिकम्स इवन मोर इंपॉर्टेंट because you also have to worry about how you're going to work with the values of the customers जो आपकी लाइफ में continuously आपके साथ में काम नहीं कर रहे हैं, but who you still have to cater to, and उनके साथ में आपको काम करना पड़ता है. So key leadership traits, sorry मेरी उसके ऊपर image है, but I'll explain it. Guest satisfaction के ऊपर, organizational success के ऊपर तो फर्क पड़ता ही है. लीडरशिप बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, स्पेशली इन अ कैनेडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट. I think that applies everywhere in the world, Indian, Ethiopian, Nigerian, Filipino, but in Canada, absolutely. Every single position that has any responsibility associated with it, you would be expected to say yes to, an interest in leadership, and a conscious investment in it. So adaptability, communication, empathy, decision-making, problem solving, these are all leadership traits. Now, that doesn't mean if you're not a leader, you don't have those. That just means कि अगर आप leader हो, you are actually putting a conscious effort and attention towards them. आप adaptability में, communication में, empathy में, decision making में और problem solving में invest कर रहे हो. You're actually looking at them and you're actually giving yourself tasks, very specific goals on how you're going to improve them. Yeah. 5 big personality traits. You can go and do the exam on that link, truity.com. So, you can pause the video here, or take it down and do it. But basically, it will evaluate you on those 5 broad dimensions. And उन dimensions को मैं आपको अपने example से बताता हूँ. So openness में मेरे 92 हैं, conscientiousness में 85, extroversion is 62.5, agreeableness is 87.5, neuroticism is 2. Now, what that means is not that these are my absolute scores. That means this is how I contrast with everybody else who took this exam. So ये जो टेस्ट होते हैं ये आपको आपके बारे में एक डेफिनेट पिक्चर नहीं देते, ये एक रिलेटिव पिक्चर देते हैं, एंड दैट इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग टू अंडरस्टैंड. सो फिर हम ये करते क्यों हैं? ये इसलिए करते हैं कि वी गेट अ सेंस ऑफ व्हाट आवर स्ट्रेंथ्स आर, बट आल्सो हम इसलिए करते हैं ताकि हमें ये सब समझ आए, इसकी साइंस समझ आए, इसकी टेक्निक समझ आए, इसकी मैकेनिज्म समझ आए, so that when others do it, we know how to use their scores for us, especially when you're in a leadership role and you get your team to go through that. If somebody has a low in openness, then as a leader, you know what you have to do to help them narrow that gap. Extroversion, मेरे केस में 62.5 इसलिए है क्योंकि when the questions came up, I answered them in a professional way. And like I said, because of my 25 years of experience now, I've come to a point in my life where I can actually bring in those social skills towards the execution of my work, just like they are second nature to me. So agreeableness 87.5, neuroticism is actually emotional stability. Getting a low score on it actually means that you are able to have a high level of empathy and you're able to relate with people. So again, this is what it is. If your neuroticism score is high, anxious, unhappy, prone to negative emotions, and if it is low, it's a positive thing. Yeah. Same thing with agreeableness. अगर आपका score higher है तो helpful or trusting or empathic or low है तो critical, uncooperative, and suspicious. So on each one of them, you can look at it. After you do that exam, you can come here, and that allows you to chart yourself out कि भाई इन 5 traits में, which are the big 5 personality traits, हम कहाँ पे हैं. जब ग्रुप्स की फॉर्मेशन की थी तो इसी के अकॉर्डिंगली की थी. It's again that just to show you a different view of it. So reflection journal, this is the 4th assignment in the course, which is done right towards the end. But इसमें क्या है, I will give the framework. इसका जो structure है वो मैं introduce भी करूँगा in a future video. But the idea is everybody will give me a leadership statement and the group will give me leadership resolutions. And again, going back to the need to develop the technical knowledge, this is a very important thing for you to do, to just make sure that you are staying on top of things. Yeah. Leadership models: transformational, situational, servant, and authentic. These are things that you can Wikipedia, but the most important thing in this slide is to bring it to your notice so that you are aware of them and you can look them up. So in my case, my leadership style is actually a combination of those 4. But the most dominant one is servant leadership model. Servant leadership model is the model in which you basically see your leadership being all about being in service of other people. जो वो एक leadership का concept of a man sitting on a horse with a sword in his hand, servant leadership model is the exact opposite. It's actually all about, as a leader, you're always trying to get out of the way of people and their development. It also is about not destroying all barriers that anybody who is in in your domain, who is in your locus of control, उनको वो सब opportunity मिले जो वो deserving है, so that you're able to get out of it. Authentic has to do with your values and how true you are to those. So that's very important to me too. And situational is when you are really able to assess, contextualize, and work with something. And transformative is when दूरदर्शी जिसको हिंदी में कहते हैं, long term, you're able to look at it and you're able to say, okay, this is who I am. Again, why is it important? Because again, from a technical point of view, it's very good for you to be able to introduce yourself as a combination of, or as one of those. Self-leadership is all about, taking a deep reflection, having a really good understanding of, what is it that triggers me? What is it that I like doing? What is it that is the purpose of my life? इसको मास्टर करना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, बिकॉज बाकी लोगों के लिए लीडर बनने से पहले आपको खुद अपने लीडर बनना बहुत जरूरी है. सो एज एन एग्जांपल, when I was younger, I would get angry a little bit too quickly, and that's something that in my self-awareness, in my exercises that I did for my own self-awareness and self-regulation, I had to pull it back, because you cannot be a good leader if you do not have control over your emotions, and that's something that I had to do quite consciously. Okay, so this was the background. We are not going to do this in every single video, because the videos in the future are going to be principally about chapters, and as we go through the chapters, we will talk about the concepts that there are. So ये पहला जो lesson है ये थोड़ा सा लंबा है, but it won't be the case forever. So let's start with the actual material, chapter 1, which introduces us to a framework for interpersonal skill development. And basically, this chapter is all about the emphasis that this course wants to put on the importance of consciously developing skills for your career advancement and organizational success. As human beings, we have to work with other human beings. So interpersonal skill development is not an option. It is a necessity. Now, the difference is you can either learn them, intentionally, consciously, willingly, or you will be forced to learn them when the water is above your head. So अपने आप एक प्लान से किसी के साथ में लग के सीख लोगे तो बेटर है. अगर जबरदस्ती लाइफ सिखाएगी तो फिर थोड़ा मुश्किल है. So critical role of these skills in career development and organizational success, so हम बात कर चुके हैं. एक systemic approach आएगी जो मैं introduce करवाऊंगा. And then the third thing is an understanding कि आप जो ये skill है सिर्फ और सिर्फ guided learning में, formal learning में नहीं कर सकते. आपको अपनी life में informally इन चीज़ों को incorporate करने की बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरत है. So formal learning, for example, this video or the class that I teach on the ground, 4-hour class, by the way, between 5:30 and 9:30 p.m. और 4 घंटे ही चलती है. 4 घंटे से कम नहीं होती unless and until there's a huge amount of cooperation and everybody does everything that they have to do. Focus is 4 hours का एक learning program है. अब हम कितनी efficiently काम कर सकते हैं कि वो 4 से 3 hours and 45 minutes हो जाए. But अगर वो efficiency नहीं तो 4 hours का होगा. But anyway, coming back to it, you cannot expect to learn everything by being in a class. So you have to have understanding it. So जो सारी बुक का जो प्लान है वो ये है. की कॉन्सेप्ट्स होंगे, थोड़ी सजेशन, एक्शनेबल आइटम्स होंगे, और उसके बाद में सेल्फ क्विजेस, एक्सरसाइजेस फॉर स्किल एनहांसमेंट. सो between learning, doing, and testing. First one is learning, second one is doing, third one is testing. And the idea is soft skills के ऊपर ज़्यादा emphasis होगा rather than the hard skills. Yeah. So 5-part जो learning model है वो क्या है? First part is goal or a desired state. Second is assessment of current reality. Third one is an action plan. Fourth is feedback on action. And fifth is the frequent practice. क्या मतलब है? So basically the model that is being given, और ये model बहुत powerful है, is कि आप पहले बैठ के you set yourself very specific, realistic, measurable goals, smart goals. कि what is it that I want to achieve when it comes to interpersonal skills, and how I work with people, and how people work with me, and how I will manage people, and how I will lead people. And वो गोल से आप स्टार्ट करते हैं यार. जब गोल बन जाता है, then you step back and you think about and say, okay, with that goal in mind, what's my current state right now? What's my reality? So that you can understand the gap. This is where you want to go. This is where you are at in terms of your skill. Now you start understanding what is it that you need to do. So once you have your goals and your desired, your desired goals and your current reality, then you can build an action plan for how you're going to improve your skills. After you built your action plan, then you're going to continuously be soliciting feedback, either through others or through your own self. So an example of others would be you actually ask one of your closest friends or your colleague to tell you, maybe on a weekly basis, how do you think I'm doing? Because I'm consciously trying to improve myself. Yeah. You sit down and write a journal every single night, talking about what are some of the things that you wanted to fix, or that you tried fixing, or that you thought that you had to fix, and how successful you were with it. And finally, the frequent practices. So, जब आपको किसी चीज की feedback मिलती है, तो उसके बाद में आप 3 चीजें ही कर सकते हो. You can only do 3 things with the feedback. First, you're actually validated that what you're doing well. So then you scale it. Scaling means you do more of it because your success has been established. So whatever it was you were doing for your plan, you do more of it to become more powerful. So first is scale. Second, you find out that you are on, in the right direction, but you're not getting the right outcome. That means something needs to change in your action plan. So then you pivot. Pivot meaning you'll continue in the same direction, but you'll try to do things a little bit differently. Yeah. So you'll pivot. Then once again, when you get feedback and measure, you see, is the pivot working or not? And then if it is working, then you'll get back into the scaling. Otherwise, you'll pivot again. And third one is that you get a feedback, whether it's from somebody else or yourself, which tells you to stop. Because obviously you did not either understand the true essence of your goal or your current reality. उसमें आपका realistic estimate नहीं था. You were not being honest with yourself or with others. And आपके plan में भी कोई problem हो सकती है. So depending upon, you'll first go to your plan. क्योंकि जब आप अपने स्टेप्स पीछे लेके जाओगे सबसे पहले आप अपना प्लान देखोगे बिकॉज दैट्स द क्लोजेस्ट टू यू. फिर उसके बाद में आप अपनी रियलिटी चेक करोगे अगर प्लान में कुछ नहीं है, और उसके बाद में आप अपने गोल पे जाओगे. एंड देन फ्रीक्वेंट प्रैक्टिस इज once you've understood कि आपने स्केल करना है, पिवट करना है या स्टॉप करना है, then you'll keep on practicing it. So if you look at it, goal, then the reality, how close are you to the goal, what skills do you have or do not have. So that reality is not just about finding the gaps, it's also about finding what it is that you can do better. What's your action plan? What are the specific things that you're going to do? Then feedback. Are there any changes, positive, negative, or neutral? Then depending upon it, either you will scale, do more of the good stuff, pivot, still do the good stuff, but do it differently, or stop. And then finally, frequent practice. Just continue to try it. Malcolm Gladwell said 10,000 hours make you an expert. So you become an expert in it. Now, आइडेंटिफिकेशन ऑफ डेवलपमेंट नीड्स, जो वो गैप है करंट रियलिटी के बाद में है, इसमें बेसिकली द आइडिया इज कि यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड, घबराने की जरूरत नहीं है. देयर इज अ यूनिवर्सल सेट ऑफ नीड्स दैट practically everybody has to go through. Yeah, so these are common improvement areas across all professions. Yeah, आपने अपना self analysis and feedback कर लिया. After that, there's no point in giving yourself a hard time कि how come I cannot do this properly. You just continue to go at it, and you understand that whatever it is that you've identified for yourself more or less applies to everybody, especially people who are in the same shoes as you, meaning उनके लाइफ का एक्सपीरियंस और उनकी एजुकेशन आपके जैसी है. सो उसमें रूल ऑफ थम्स क्या? बी कैंडिड विद योरसेल्फ, रिकॉल फीडबैक दैट यू रिसीव्ड, सोलिसिट, अगर आपको फीडबैक नहीं मिल रही है तो सोलिसिट करो, एंड try to get that feedback also more formally. अपने बॉस को बोलो भाई परफॉर्मेंस अप्रेजल्स या इवैल्यूएशन करो, कुछ तो इनपुट दो, नहीं तो हम अपनी डेवलपमेंट कैसे करेंगे. सो that allows you to keep going at जो भी आपने list of universal needs अपने लिए develop किया. So developing interpersonal skills on the job, informal learning, which is just through observation and practice. यहाँ पे the concept of having role models, mentors and coaches आ जाता है. Look out for things like, what are people doing, how are they doing it, are they soliciting feedback, or do they have an action plan, do you see them looking at the reality, are they following those 5 steps? If they are, how are they doing it? And the second thing is, एक चीज तो आप observe करके you can observe people, and second thing is get yourself in some uncomfortable situations. Yeah, अगर कोई प्रॉब्लम दिखती है तो उसको सॉल्व करने की कोशिश करें, स्पेशली अगर उस प्रॉब्लम में आपको कोई ऐसा स्किल अप्लाई करने का या डेवलप करने का मौका मिलता है जो आपने अपने लिए आइडेंटिफाई किया है. सो देन यू पुट योरसेल्फ इन दोस सिचुएशंस व्हिच आर अनफेमिलियर टू यू. They may not be as per your responsibility. Too many people look at something and say, "ये तो मेरे pay bracket से ऊपर है. This is above my pay bracket, so I'm not going to do much about it." That's not the way to do it. You take the time to really reflect on it. You think you can make a difference, or you have the skills, or there's a possibility for you to learn new skills, and then you go ahead and do it. Yeah. So what is the future food for thought on this? गोल सेटिंग इंपॉर्टेंट है. गोल सेटिंग से बहुत ज्यादा इंप्रूवमेंट आ सकती है, एंड दैट्स अनफॉर्चुनेटली समथिंग वी डू नॉट डू. हम कॉन्शियसली अपने लिए गोल सेट्स नहीं करते. क्योंकि हम गोल सेट नहीं करते, हम करंट रियलिटी नहीं देखते. क्योंकि हम करंट रियलिटी नहीं देखते तो हम एक्शन प्लान नहीं बनाते. क्योंकि हम एक्शन प्लान नहीं बनाते तो हम फीडबैक ना सोलिसिट करते हैं, ना एक्सप्लोर करते हैं. एंड देन फाइनली फ्रीक्वेंट प्रैक्टिस कहाँ से आएगी अगर पहली 4 चीजें ही नहीं हुई होंगी. सो फीडबैक के बारे में हमने बात कर लिया. सोलिसिट करें, जाके पूछें, अपने घर वालों को पूछें, सबसे पहले अपने माँ बाप को पूछो, अपने प्रोफेशनल, बिकॉज ये जो स्किल्स हैं, स्पेशली जो लीडरशिप के स्किल्स हैं, लाइक आई स्टार्टेड आउट बाय सेइंग that even in your own familial settings, in your community settings, you are a leader in some way or not. You may not understanding some way or form, I meant. You may not understanding it right. You may not understand it right away, but there are elements to what you can bring your leadership to. बहुत अपॉर्चुनिटी होती है घर के लेवल पे भी, फेमिलियर लेवल पे भी, सोसाइटी में, मोहल्ले में, to do something which allows you to assert your leadership credentials. तो उन चीज़ों को देखें. Real world application, have a sense of discomfort. बहुत लोग complain करते हैं about what's wrong. A true leader is somebody who looks at it, rolls up their sleeves and says, listen, I acknowledge that something is wrong, but continuing to complain about it is not my style. I want to be a part of the solution and not a part of the frustration. So frustration से उठ के solutions पे जाएं. Um, what are the key points of the discussion? Leadership की importance in tourism and hospitality, leadership models को personal values के साथ में हमने relate किया, और हमने बात की कि जो leadership है उससे एक बहुत ज़्यादा positivity create हो सकती है, especially अगर उसमें intentionality है. अगले सेशन में चैप्टर 2 एंड चैप्टर 3 पे करेंगे. आई विल वॉक यू थ्रू द होल साइकिल अगेन फॉर यू टू अंडरस्टैंड कि हम कहाँ पे पहुंचे हैं. In the meantime, if you have any questions, that's my Lambton College email, manu.sharma@lambtoncollege.ca. Send me an email. Let me know if there's anything at all that I can do for you, and we can go from there. So, with that, I will take your leave, but not before I wish you all the best for everything that you are trying on your end. Please know that leadership as a conscious pursuit in life is extremely strong. हर एक कम्युनिटी में, हर एक सोसाइटी में, हर एक फैमिली में स्ट्रांग लीडरशिप, स्ट्रांग रोल मॉडलिंग की बहुत ज़रूरत है. हम एक बहुत ही कॉम्प्लेक्स दुनिया में रहते हैं. आवर चैलेंजेस आर गेटिंग मोर एंड मोर कॉम्प्लेक्स एवरी डे, and it would take an intentional effort on part of everybody to develop their leadership skills. Towards that end, you have my best wishes, and I'm here to give you anything that I can give from my end, either in an advisory capacity or a mentor capacity or a coaching capacity. With that, I take your leave, and I'll see you in the next chapter sometime soon. Thanks a lot.